Hello, my name is Dr. Francheska Perepletchikova. Today we're going to discuss the power of teaching your children how to give to self, or so to speak, how to bake your own bread. Now, our needs can be satisfied in two main ways: taking from other people and giving to ourselves. Unfortunately, the information field in which we exist programmed us primarily to be takers, programmed us to get what we need from other people: love me, reinforce me, validate me, provide care and support for me, me. We even put the emphasis on other people, the responsibility on other people for our own action, thoughts, and behaviors. If you didn't do that, I would not have had that reaction. If you only gave me what I wanted, I would not have been angry at you or did not scream at you. Making other responsible for our actions, meaning giving them control over our own lives. We're not programmed to give to ourselves. How many of you have known somebody, or maybe in your own family, who were taught as children how to simply self-reinforce? Great job, me, for doing something. How many of you have been taught to self-validate? I understand why I'm so angry at that person because whatever it is. How many of you have discussed self-love with your children or have had those discussions with your own parents? Even worse, most of us have been programmed to see self-love as something negative. Self-love equals being selfish, being narcissistic, being conceited. Don't take my word for that. Google synonyms of self-love. It can be quite an eye-opening experience because Google is a representation of our collective understanding of what is and what we hold as true. Now, we have not been taught how to give to ourselves. And therefore, we primarily rely on other people to receive what we need. And if they don't give us what we need, or they give it to us not in the shape and form that we want, what's going to happen? We're going to starve. We get none of what we need. And therefore, we will start to threaten, verbal aggression, physical aggression, trying to get by force what we think is ours somehow from other people, because that's the only way we know. A simple example of that: a child who did not get what they wanted from peers, friends, siblings, or parents, and they start to be physically aggressive or verbally aggressive. What we need to do, we need to learn ourselves and teach our children how to give to self. Now, there are two important considerations before we proceed to understanding and discussing what that means. Number one, of course, as we learn how to give to self, we still need to receive from others, right? Nothing too extreme. Everything is dialectical, always comes in twos, right? I receive from others, I give to myself. The other important consideration is that when we receive from others validation, reinforcement, praise, love, of course, there's so much more of an emotional experience in that, right? Versus when we give to ourselves, self-reinforcement, self-validation, sitting with self-love, right? Therefore, when we receive something from others, we can say, this is like getting a cake from somebody else. While when we give to ourselves, that's more of baking your own bread. And everything has two sides. Receiving from others is much more of an emotional experience attached to it. The experience is have higher emotional balance to it. And on the other hand, we are not in control of that outcome. Versus giving to self, it's not as intense of an emotional experience, and we are in better control of that process. Why learning to give to ourselves is so important? Well, number one, then we can assume control of getting what we need, when we need it, in a fashion and form that we need. Better control, establishing internal locus of control. And number two, what can I give to another person if I have nothing of my own? If everything that I have is taken from other people? Therefore, the other consideration is only then, when I have something of my own, I can give to others. And giving to others is the main way to initiate and maintain healthy relationships. Let's start with the first point. Now, we control nothing. I can't control other people. I can't control life and circumstances. And when we're relying on other people to give everything that we need, we're not in control of getting it. And when we can't control getting it, specifically in the form, shape, and timing of our preference, what's going to happen? We're going to start to use force to obtain it, forgetting that other people don't own us anything, and we don't owe anything to other people. We only owe to ourselves to learn about us, to love me as I am, and to self-actualize me as I am, and to our children. Well, we made them, now we're responsible for them. However, here is a twist. We don't owe them what they want. We owe them what they need. And it's understandable that when we think that other people owe us something, if they don't give it to us, we start to retaliate. We start to use force. We start to use threats because somehow we're trying to obtain what we think is already ours. Now, also, we make other people responsible for our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, forgetting that nobody's responsible for it. All events are subjectively neutral. Whatever interpretation we make out of that event, then we provoke ourselves with that interpretation. Other people are not responsible for our responses, and we are not responsible for other people's responses. We make it other people's responsibility in our mind, but it's not real. And of course, coupled with the only source of our needs being satisfied as other people, plus we're making them responsible for everything that happens to us, giving control to them, is going to lead to forceful means to obtain what we need. Now, what we need to do is introduce the other side. Number one, we need to remember nobody's responsible for our reactions. And number two, we need to remember that everything that's one-sided does not work. Therefore, only relying on others will not work. We also need to introduce the other side of me learning to bake my own bread. And when I learn how to bake my own bread, if other people give me cake, fantastic and wonderful. If they don't, I have my own. I'm not starving, and therefore I'll be less likely to retaliate against others and make them responsible for the way I feel, think, and act. And this brings us to the second point. Since giving to other people is the basic foundational necessity to initiate and maintain healthy relationships, our ability to do that, to give, is based on our ability to have something to give. Therefore, first I need to give to myself. If everything that I have is taken, If nothing of my own, what indeed can I give? The other thing to consider is what is it that we're giving to ourselves, right? Now, not only we are programmed to take from others, more so than give to ourselves, right? In terms of validation, reinforcement, love, care, support, all those wonderful things that we all need. We are indeed programmed to give to ourselves self-criticism, self-judgment, being self-deprecating. Information field in which we exist does program us to be self-critical, unfortunately. Now, and if all I have is that, that's exactly what I'm going to give. If I'm a self-critical person, what am I going to do? I'm going to see other people as self-critical. I will be criticizing them, and I will have a tendency at least to interpret what other people are telling me as criticism, even if it wasn't intended to be so. If I have pain inside, I'll share pain. If I have happiness inside, I'll share happiness. I cannot share something that I don't have. So what we give to ourselves is also critically important. And we need to understand and appreciate that. And we also need to appreciate that each and every one of us have indeed sustained what we call harmful invalidation. We all have been criticized and judged. And not only on the level of our response, what we did, but also on a personal level. The messages that we received usually are, you did something bad, and therefore you are bad. That's why the programming that we sustained is exactly about that there's something wrong with me. And if that's all we have to share with other people primarily, what kind of relationships can we indeed form? So to establish and maintain healthy relationship with other people, we first need to establish and maintain healthy relationship with self. What are the basics, most important foundational ingredients of baking my own bread? Self-reinforcement, self-validation, self-love, self-care, self-compassion, self-control, and cognitive self-restructuring. If your children have difficulty with friendships, teaching them social skills is very important. Yet, knowing social skills is knowing what to do. This is necessary, not sufficient, because they also need to gain a capacity to do it. Gaining the capacity to indeed effectively apply all of this knowledge of social skills first comes from establishing a positive relationship with self. If I don't have a positive relationship with me, how can I indeed effectively apply all of this knowledge? If I have nothing that I can give to me, there's nothing I can really give to others, whether or not I know what to do. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. If you want to learn more also on how to bake your own bread, please take a look at the description below this video for information on the courses for clinicians and for parents. I hope to see you next time.